Hello everyone, this is Anna from Savvy Cat Realty, and today I'm here to talk to you about the coastline of Porto. So for those of you who don't know, Savvy Cat Realty is an investment and relocation agency that helps expats move to Portugal in a sustainable way. We focus on the lifestyle side of things and helping you figure out the right location for your own personal needs in the whole of continental Portugal, and also trying to make a smooth transaction and getting you the right fit and the right property at a fair price that benefits both the locals and yourself. So if this makes sense to you, do visit our website in www.savvycatrealty.com, where you will find all of the information of our services listed very transparently, where you work with both rentals and purchases. So feel free to check out. So going into today's topic, which is the coastline of the city of Porto. Portugal actually is a coastal country, so we are surrounded by water in all but one side, and we have a lot of coastline, and our main cities tend to be on the coastal. So Porto, being one of those cities, is a city that has both a river and oceanfront. So we have the Douro River that meets the sea where Porto is located. And so we have an absolutely gorgeous coastal front and riverfront, and it's definitely very scenic. So today I'm going to talk to you about this waterfront of Porto City, and I'm going to go from around 20 minutes from the city center. So all of these locations that I'm mentioning here today are all very close to the city of Porto. So I'm going to start on the north side with Leça de Palmeira, and go to the south side and finish in about Miramar and Francelos. So starting in the north side of the Porto coastline, we have Leça de Palmeira. And Leça de Palmeira is a mix of a city. It has both apartments and villas, and the central town is a bit older and more run down. So to the ocean side, to the north side, you have the more modern location with a lot of modern buildings and also some restaurants and stores and commercial front. So starting in this location, the sea here is a bit rough. So although it's definitely popular for surf and so on, I would say the water is a bit cold, so it's more, I prefer it as a view, as to walk by than to actually go into the water, although the beaches definitely get very busy in the summertime. So another myth that I would like to mention here is that the north of Portugal and Porto and these areas actually don't get that cold. You do have more rain than most, especially the south of the country, but you generally always get 1 or 2 days of sunlight and blue skies per week, even in the winter time, and temperatures don't often go below 10 degrees. So it's often, the winter time is generally between 10 and 15 degrees. Sometimes it will go like to 5, 7, but it's more commonly between 10 and 15. So it's actually not that cold. And you do get a lot of pleasant days. And to give you an example, I made these filmings in the 13th and 14th of December 2025. So this footage that you're going to see here today is all made in the middle of December, and you can see you can still get very, very pleasant days. So this more north side of Leça de Palmeira, you will find a lot of modern apartment buildings with beautiful sea views at relatively affordable prices. So in this part of Leça and in Leça, you will find prices between 2,500 and 3,700 euros per square meter. This will of course depend on the location, having sea view, how modern the property is, whether it's apartment or a house. You do get more apartments on the waterfront and more villas on the inner lines, although you do get a bit of villas in the historic part and the central part of Leça. The riverside of Leça, it's a commercial port, so it's not exactly a nice view, and so that area is a bit cheaper. But you do also get a lot of very, very nice seafood restaurants at very affordable price, and a lot of people from Porto come to Leça to have seafood at affordable prices. So do keep that in mind. Another thing that I would like to mention is that to the north of Leça de Palmeira, in the waterfront, you have this refineria, so this petrol refinery, that is scheduled to be removed. So this area definitely lost a lot of commercial property value because of the strong industrial presence. And the refinery area, which is a pretty big stretch of land, is going to be all refurbished and taken in that the project is to be part of an entrepreneurial center and residential. So this area is probably going to gain a lot of value. So it may be very interesting from an investment perspective. You do not have metro to this site. You only have buses, and like I mentioned, it's about 20 minutes drive from the center of Porto. Do keep in mind that in rush hours you can get a lot of traffic, but outside of rush hours it takes you about 20 minutes to reach Leça de Palmeira to the center of Porto. After this refinery area, so once you pass the refinery, you will reach the Lavra and Vila areas, which are more villa areas and quite affordable, tend to be between 2,000 and 3,000 euros per square meter. Those are a bit further, so they will be closer to the 30 minutes from Porto. Another thing that it's interesting to mention about the Leça de Palmeira is that you have a drawbridge that raises to get the big commercial ships in, but you do cross it by car, and right to the other side you have Matosinhos. And Matosinhos is an area that is becoming highly popular and highly developed in Portugal, in Porto, and it's becoming very, very popular with the expats because it's a mostly modern developments. I would say that 80%, maybe 90% of Matosinhos is high-rise apartment modern buildings. And you have a lot of commercial spaces on the ground levels. And it's overall a very pleasant location, a very modern looking pleasant location. You have this square where they often have events, you have some hotels, you have bars and restaurants and supermarkets and basically everything you need there. So it's a very comfortable residential area that is also on the seafront. So you also get the beautiful seafront and you don't get the industrial side of Leça as it is mostly residential. Matosinhos is definitely a bit more expensive than Leça, so the prices here will be between 3,000 and 4,000 euros per square meter, depending on condition and so on. And another thing important to mention about Matosinhos is that you have metro. So you can use public transport to get to the center of Porto, or of course also use private transport and cars, which will take you about 15 to 20 minutes to reach the center of Porto. So right after Matosinhos, you will have the Anemone roundabout that marks the start of, or the end, depending on where you're coming, the city park. So o Parque da Cidade, the city park of Porto, is one of the biggest parks in a city in Europe. It's a huge, beautiful park. It's the most pleasant green area and park probably in the whole country. So it's a very, very pleasant location, and it's right next to Matosinhos. And it is, once you cross the city park, then on this other side you start Foz. And Foz is literally translated where the sea meets the river. So at the end of the Foz area, you will start the Douro River. And the Foz area is one of the most scenic areas in Porto. It's absolutely gorgeous. You have this long walkway that you can bike, you can roller skate. You have this really long stretch of avenue that actually goes all the way from Matosinhos up until Ribeira. That is miles and miles of water and riverfront, absolutely gorgeous views. And Foz is the luxury area of Porto. Foz is where you have the fancy villas, where you have the fancy apartments. You actually have more villas than apartments and a lot of noble houses, but some of them were converted into apartments. And on the seafront, most of them nowadays are apartments, so villas tend to be on the second line. You also have quite a bit of commerce and restaurants. Foz, however, does not have metro, so you'd go there mostly by car, and it's absolutely gorgeous and, like I said, the luxury area of Porto, where you can find prices between 3,500 euros per square meter to 7,500 euros per square meter. And of course, the more modern and the more beautiful the views are, the more likely it will be for the prices to be high. Another location that is right next to Foz, that it's extremely high-end and popular, and it's mostly a villa area. So right behind Foz and the riverfront, you will have this Lavra area, which is also a beautiful private, public-private now, garden with an art center and museum. And around it, you have the luxury villa area of Porto and Foz, where you can often find these very high-end properties at very high-end prices. So the next place in the Douro ocean and waterfront would be the Ora. So once the Foz, where the river meets the sea, you have a beautiful garden there, and you will see literally the Foz. And after the Foz until Ponte da Rábida, so the first bridge that crosses the Douro River, we call that area Ora. And that area also has absolutely gorgeous views. The prices are very similar to Foz nowadays because exactly of the views. You have some of the most privileged views because it's where the river meets the sea and you can get view to both. So this area does get quite pricey, but and it was renovated relatively recently. So 10 years ago, that area had a lot of rundown property, but nowadays you have a lot of recovered and new developments that made the prices rise very significantly. But you do get that absolutely gorgeous views, and it's absolutely scenic to just do the walkway riverside and oceanside. It's just beautiful. So next, I'm going to go into the Gaia side because the only thing separating Porto from Gaia is the river. So once you cross the river, and you do have 3 bridges to cross the river, so it's actually pretty easy to go across. The first one is the Rábida bridge, then you have the Dom Luís bridge, and then I forgot the name of the other bridge, but the bridge behind that one. But once you cross the river, you go into the Gaia side. And the riverfront of the Gaia side, first you get the area where the touristic and wine cellars are and so on, which I'm not going to go into detail. And then you have the Afurada. And the Afurada is also the area between Ponte da Rábida and the Foz, so the river end. That area was mostly a fisherman villa, and it actually only started also developing in the last 5 to 10 years. It was basically a fisherman village with very little development. You just had the seafood restaurants and so on. But it became very popular because the views are absolutely gorgeous and it started developing. So you will find in the Afurada area itself, you will find mostly smaller houses, more traditional Porto style. And then around it, you get nowadays a lot of new developments. So the Afurada area itself, it's still relatively affordable, 3,000 to 4,000 euros per square meter. But then you get the new parts of it. So right next to a furada in the Foz, in the Gaia side of the riverfront, you now have a new marina that was developed really very recently. I think it was like 3 years or 4 years ago. This new marina is absolutely new, and you get into the Canidelo area that is literally newly developed. It's only started developing in the past 5 years. You get 90% new high-rise buildings with absolutely gorgeous views. You get this new marina area that is looking beautiful. And you get the Foz, the riverfront, and the oceanfront. So this area is definitely one of the up-and-coming areas of Porto. Like I said, mostly apartments, mostly new apartments, and still very affordable. So prices here are between 2.7 and 3.5 euros per square meter in average, and you get a lot of new construction and a lot of it still happening. So I would say this is definitely one of the up-and-coming areas of Porto, and it's looking beautiful. You have commerce, you have coffee shops, you have modern buildings, you have the walkways. Actually, this part is mostly the avenues with the bike ends and the seafront views. So you do get absolutely beautiful quality of life here and beautiful views at a very affordable price. So once you go a bit more into the other side, also to mention that a Furada and Canidelo do not have metro and very little public transport. However, if you go a bit further, in the Gaia side, there is this train line that goes from Gaia to, actually it goes to Porto because it crosses the bridge, but it doesn't go exactly on the seafront area until a bit further. So it starts going a bit on the seafront area, kind of from Francelos on. So basically, this train line that goes to Aveiro is a great form of public transportation from this area on. Canidelo still doesn't, you can get to the train line, but it's not that close. It does have a stop, but it's not as close to the waterfront as from Francelos on. And this train line is very practical because you get trains like every half an hour during most of the days, or at least hourly, and they go either to Aveiro or to Porto. The way from Aveiro to Porto is about an hour, and it's mostly waterfront, so it's a very, very pleasant way. So once you go into, like I said, the Francelos, then Miramar and the Cozelo areas, these areas are mostly villas, and they are a lot more affordable. So we are talking about prices between 2.3 and 2.8 thousand euros per square meter. You do have also some apartment buildings in this area, but the majority are villas. Some modern, some older. The prices will vary, of course, depending on how good of the state they are, whether or not they are in the first line with sea view, and so on and so forth. But this area, the other really nice thing is that you have, I wouldn't say never ending, but almost never ending dune walkways. Like literally we walk on top of the sand, but not on top of the sand. And you can go all the way to Espinho almost walking in these walkways. And it's just beautiful and pleasant walk to do. I recommend anyone that goes to this area to just do a bit of these walkways. And you also have a lot of, once again, mostly seafood and really nice restaurants in the especially the seafront area in Arcozelo, Miramar, and Francelos. So these are kind of the 3 locations in the row. And you also get a golf course right next to Miramar. And this is a relatively small golf course, but it's an absolutely beautiful one because it's partially seafront. So you have, and it's also very well upkept. So it's a very, very pleasant golf course to visit if you are into golf. So all of this area, I would say that the coastal front of Porto is highly recommendable. It's beautiful. If you want beautiful views and not to be too far from a city and still get affordable prices, I would say that you get amazing options in Porto. And the climate is actually not as bad as most people think. So do give that a thought if these are the kind of things you are looking for your own lifestyle. And we at SavvyCat would, of course, be more than happy to help. We work from a lifestyle perspective, so we would be more than happy to figure out where would be the right fit for you and help you get you here all the way. We also help you with the visa. We get property inspections and all of the legal verifications to make sure you make a safe and adequate purchase for your own needs. So if that makes sense to you, you can always book a free clarification calls with one of our agents in www.savvycatrealty.com. Or if you want more technical advice, you can also book a call with me, also in our website, www.savvycatrealty.com. So I hope that you enjoyed learning about the Porto coastline. We are here every week with more information about Portugal and living in Portugal. And we also have our blog with a lot of free information. So if you find all of these useful, do give us a follow. And I hope to see you all next week. Bye!